The Swift Museum Foundation proudly presents Polishing Natural Unpainted Aluminum Surfaces. Those of us who have been associated with vintage and warbird show planes already know about the pride of ownership and the special attraction of highly polished natural aluminum aircraft. You may have noticed the highly polished natural aluminum aircraft that have been around for years have recently got even better. We know the secrets and we're willing to share them with you. We want to help you find the proper equipment, polishers, polishing cloths, polish, and help you discover how to use them so that you too can have this beautiful finished product. Also, we will show you how to protect and preserve your fine finish. Polishing your unpainted aluminum aircraft is one of the easiest and least expensive ways to increase the market value of your aircraft without modification or the addition of equipment or accessories. Compare here two rare T-35 Buckaroos, one painted and rare to say the least. It's one of 10 owned and operated by the Royal Saudi Air Force in the early 50s. Now compare it with this U.S. Air Force T-35, unpainted and polished to perfection. It too is rare, as it's one of only 3 operational with the U.S. Air Force during the early 50s. Park them together at any air show. The tracks in the grass tell the story. The super polished aluminum aircraft gets the attention. We find this to be true with any and all aircraft. Check out this unpainted Swift aircraft. A fine specimen, original, airworthy, and fun to fly. But park it next to this super polished Swift and it's instantly in second place. We say again, polishing your natural aluminum aircraft will not only improve your pride of ownership, it will increase the aircraft's monetary value. This fine and admired, polished, mirror-like finish is not easy to obtain, accomplish, or even preserve. There is no silver bullet. There is no wipe it on and wipe it off material or method available. We at Swift headquarters, Scott, Snap, Jim, and myself, have a combined 75 years plus of experience polishing our aircraft. If there was an easier way, we would have found it. We've tried absolutely every material, method, and trick we've ever heard about. We also know if you want to learn the easy way to do something, watch a lazy man do it. The only way a lazy man can have a polished airplane is to pay someone else to do it. The rest of us have to work at it. The finished product is worth the effort. With this video, we hope to convey to you the benefit of our experience and help you too to obtain the absolutely stunning finished product that you desire with a minimum of wasted time, effort, and money. The first order of business is to have the proper materials and equipment. We use the dual-head orbital electric cyclo polisher for polishing. They and all the materials and tools recommended here are available via the Swift Parts Department. That's the same place you obtained this video. A pneumatic version of this polisher is also available. It's not recommended unless you have available a large volume of compressed air. The Nuvite polish manufacturer recommends a rotary or round buffer for polishing large aircraft. We have not used that method. We do find from our own experience that we can obtain excellent results with the cyclo polisher you see being used here. The ordinary high-speed single-disc polishers you see used in automobile polishing are not recommended for polishing aluminum surfaces. Second, and equally important, is to use the proper polishing cloths, both for applying or polishing and removing the polishing residue. Our goal is to produce a mirror-like finish without swirl marks, bright sparkles, hand marks, or milky areas. Through much trial and error, diapers, t-shirts, cotton towels, etc., we have found the sweatshirt material, known in the fabric trade as 95-5, meaning 95% cotton and 5% polyester, to be ideal. We only use the fleece side. This portion is actually 100% cotton. The slick side is the polyester. It's just a carrier for the cotton. Next, this material must be the proper weight. We find the 12 to 13 ounce weight to be perfect for the final polishing and removing residue. The lighter 8 or 9 ounce weight materials are fine for initial applications and polishing. We have negotiated with a fabric manufacturer to make a special run of the material for us, without color, dyes, or other additives, to be used exclusively for aluminum polishing. Although this special material is more expensive than the waste material we used previously, the cost is not prohibitive and the material can be washed and reused. As a matter of fact, the material improves in softness after the first washing using good detergents. With all the time and the effort necessary to polish our aircraft, we refuse to use anything except the absolute best of any and everything involved. Third, and also equally important, is the actual metal polish used. We've searched and tried every polish or method we've ever heard about. The ideal product is one that produces the desired results with a minimum of effort, a minimum of residue on you, yourself, and the area where you're working, and finally a polished surface that withstands exposure to the elements, such as fingerprints, weather, water spots, bugs, etc. In search of the ideal product, we've tried Medall, Flitz, Blue Magic, Rolite, Alumamag, Mothers, Perfect Polish, Surplus Military Products, and others. We found them all to have some or many faults and not meet our requirements. To date, our polish of choice is Nuvite. As with the Cyclo Polisher and polishing cloths, it too is available from our Swift Parts department. The Nuvite polish is unique for several reasons. It's available in varying grades of abrasiveness to suit whatever areas you're polishing. It's most effective when used very sparingly. Generally speaking, the finer the grade of polish, the less you use. With the final or S grade, just a small amount on the tip of one finger is sufficient for both Cyclo heads. When you work through the necessary grades to the final stage, it produces an absolute mirror-like finish, superior to any other polish we've tried. Finally, we find after this finish is exposed to weather, the cleanup process is simple and more successful than anything else available. Before we continue with how to use and which polish to use, let's put the cart before the horse and explain the simple method of cleaning a polished aluminum surface that has been polished with Nuvite and then exposed to weather, dust, dew, rain, bugs, etc., such as happens when your aircraft sits out overnight at a fly-in or away from home. First of all, use only fresh, clean water. No detergents, chemicals, or polish. If possible, do this job in a shady or cool area out of direct sunlight. It can be done in direct sunlight, but you simply have to work very quickly and prevent early drying and water spotting. We fill a container such as a 5-gallon bucket with fresh water, add a large, clean, soft cotton towel, let it soak in the bucket while you wet down the entire aircraft. Wet it down and keep it wet all over as you proceed. Next, take the wet towel and mop down the surface to be cleaned. After that area, usually one wing, is mopped, immediately rinse it with fresh water. The goal here is to loosen any dust or foreign matter and then rinse it away. Keep this area wet as you continue this procedure throughout the rest of the areas to be cleaned. After all the areas have been mopped and rinsed, we bring out another simple, inexpensive, but very effective tool called the absorber. It's commonly available at many auto, supply, and discount stores for less than $10. The absorber is very similar to a chamois you may have used on your auto. In fact, the absorber could very well be called a super chamois. Don't shortcut and use an ordinary chamois. Use the very best. Now with the absorber, we quickly wipe down the area being cleaned. Remember, we've kept it wet until this time. As with a chamois, wipe it down, squeeze or wring out the absorber, and continue to wipe the area until it's dry. Not nearly dry, but dry. Continue to wring out the absorber and wipe the surface until it's completely dry. This is where the absorber works well. You'll find it's not difficult to completely dry the surface. The wonderful part, as you can see, your polished surface is returned to its original luster, without water spots and without additional polishing. Now you see why we're so strong on Nuvite. Years and years of losing our new polish job to water spots and fingerprints causes us to love this stuff. In some areas of the country, it's possible to become exposed to acid rain. In this case, all bets are off. You'll likely have to polish again. During 1998 and 1999, the Swift you see here was exposed to rain in Georgia, Florida, Texas, New Mexico, Wisconsin, Indiana, and Tennessee with no problem. Now let's get on with genuine polishing. That is, if we're really ready to polish. First, let's be absolutely sure the aircraft is clean and free of oil and oil film. Next, determine, do we need to first compound the surface and then polish, or are we ready to polish? A simple check is close your eyes and feel of the surface. Does it feel like glass or even dirty glass, or does it feel like sandpaper or even a fine grade of sandpaper? Obviously, if it feels like glass or dirty glass, it's probably being polished previously and is now ready to be polished. If it feels like sandpaper, don't be discouraged. It can be polished. But first, we're going to compound the surface to prepare it for polishing. Compounding is dirty, nasty work, but it's usually a one-time job. After you've compounded the surface one time, you're not likely to have to do it again. Compounding requires different equipment and materials. Black & Decker has a single-disc low-speed buffer that works excellent. It's very important that this buffer not run over 1800 to 2000 RPM. The higher speed grinders will quickly do permanent damage to your aluminum. Don't even think of using them. Even at 1800 to 2000 RPM, it's important to keep moving to avoid it heating or burning the surface. Now for the pads for the buffer, there's two types. One, a heavy wool pile pad used by the auto industry on painted surfaces and not recommended here for this job. We need and must obtain the shorter pile compounding pad. If you're doing a complete aircraft such as a Swift, you'll likely need a half a dozen of these pads. They're commonly available at auto paint stores. If you have difficulty locating these, we can get them for you. Now for the compound. In years past, we've tried and used many materials, such as DuPont heavy-duty rubbing compound and later Rolite pre-polish. Some of these compounds do a good job of smoothing a surface, but they leave a milky surface that's difficult to polish out. Our compound of choice is Nuvite C. For very rough spots and scratches, G6, the reddish or coarse compound, is sometimes used. One of the greatest advantages of the Nuvite materials is that small amounts do a better job and create less of a mess without excessive residue. The intermediate grade of C and F7 with the cyclopolisher are excellent for removing the previously mentioned milky look or light oxidation. Some very rough surfaces may need wet sanding before moving up to these various levels of Nuvite. Let's begin by applying the Nuvite compound and attacking the surface to be compounded. Here you see the spreading motion used before turning on the buffer. This motion is very similar to the procedure we will use later when we polish. Now as we turn on the buffer, we begin to spread, polish, and smooth it over a small area, usually not more than a 2-foot square. The exact size of the area is determined by the amount of compound you apply. Large areas and large amounts are not recommended. As you see, we continue with the spreading, polishing motion. As the area darkens or turns black, simply slowly continue the process back and forth, up and down, until you see the compound begin to disappear or polish away. If you see small areas or spots that have not smoothed out, a second application may be necessary. The use of too much compound will reduce the cutting effect and create a nasty, dirty working environment. Even these low-speed buffers will throw the polish and residue at a much greater rate than the cyclopolishers we'll use later when we polish. After compounding your first area, simply move over to the next adjoining area of the approximate same size. As you get the feel for the amount of compound and the area it will cover, you can fine-tune the size of the area to address each time. From time to time, you'll find it necessary to clean your compounding pad of the residue or buildup. One way is to run the buffer and hold a large screwdriver blade against the pad to flip away the excess residue. Depending on the size of your aircraft or the work area, you'll find it necessary to change the compounding pad from time to time. These pads can be cleaned and reused. To clean, soak them in soap and water, rinse and spin dry by reinstalling them on the buffer. Don't worry about the black residue on the surface. After finishing this compounding process, we're going to wash the entire aircraft with water and a household detergent. Be sure that the detergent does not contain silicone. This will be the only time that we'll use detergent. We'll not take the time to show you how to wash your aircraft. We assume you already know how to do that part. We strongly encourage you to rinse it thoroughly. It's helpful to dry it by hand in the manner that we described earlier in the cleanup process for an already polished aircraft. When it is dry, we're ready to get on with polishing. No one said it was going to be easy, but if you'll pay close attention, it will get easier. You may very well improve on our procedure or process that we're showing you today. We may not know everything there is to know, but we're sure getting better results today with less effort and a better finished product than we did years ago. Here we're using the Cyclo Model 5 offered in our polishing kits and the 95.5 material manufactured special for us for this purpose. Lighter weight soft materials can be used at this stage. However, the 13-ounce or heavier material must be used for removing residue and final luster. Before polishing, we must learn how to hold the material on the polisher head to allow the motor to vent or to get air. We don't want to burn up our polisher, and second, we want to get the maximum mileage out of each polishing cloth. Each cloth is cut to a size to allow you to place it on the Cyclo a minimum of 4 times or 4 positions on each cloth. Each position will allow you to polish a considerable area, as you'll see as we go along. First, grasp the Cyclo as shown here, and place the polishing cloth with the fleece side out. Grasp the cloth on each side of the handle and wrap the remainder around as we're doing here. Remember, again, we want to be sure to allow the motor to vent. Next, we place the electric cord over our right shoulder if we're right-handed, and over our left shoulder for left-handed polishers. This procedure is important because we must not allow the cord to drag or rub our fine surfaces. The cord will leave ugly marks. Practice the habit of putting the cord over your shoulder. Now we have the Nuvite F7 open and safely positioned close by and handy. Next, we place one finger very lightly into the Nuvite and then equally distribute this small amount on each pad as you see us doing here. Next, we spread the Nuvite on the general area to be worked. Usually making a big S in this manner is a good way to start. Now with the Cyclo gently resting on the area to be polished, we turn on the Cyclo and begin a steady polishing or spreading motion. The goal is to evenly cover the area, being careful not to take on too large an area. We continue with a smooth, even motion, firmly holding the Cyclo against the aluminum but not forcing it. We continue and notice the surface at first begins to turn dark. Then as we continue to polish, the black begins to go away and the bright begins to come through. When you've just about polished the black away, it's time to move on to the adjoining area with the exact same procedure. Don't hurry, take your time, and let the Cyclo do the work. For the final stage of polishing, let's go to Nuvite S and repeat the exact procedure just used here with F7. If you're polishing an aircraft that passes the feel for glass test or has been polished previously, you may very well begin your polishing here at this point with a new Vite S.